Of course, here's your modified article presented as a continuous speech-style narrative with more than 50 unnumbered paragraphs. King Charles arrived in Ottawa, Canada's dignified capital, on a Monday that would be remembered as more than ceremonial. It marked a moment of symbolic resilience, national identity, and subtle diplomacy. His arrival, greeted by the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and Governor-General Mary Simon, radiated a potent signal: the monarchy still breathes, and it breathes proudly in Canada. At 76, and amid his ongoing battle with cancer, the King's decision to travel across the Atlantic was not one made lightly. It wasn't just a royal appearance. It was an affirmation, an assurance to Canada, and a message to the world, that the monarchy's bond with this nation endures. Alongside him stood Queen Camilla, composed and elegant, her presence echoing a quiet strength as they stepped onto Canadian soil. The sight was reminiscent of times past, yet anchored in the sharp realities of today. Canada is more than just a realm under the crown. It's a country balancing its identity in the face of growing global pressures. And now, even whispers of annexation. U.S. President Donald Trump, bold as ever, has not concealed his interest in Canada, reportedly envisioning it as America's 51st state. It's a proposition that Canadians, fiercely independent and proudly sovereign, have rejected outright. Mark Carney, newly elected and already commanding, has made it unequivocally clear. Canada is not for sale. It never was, and never will be. Charles's visit, steeped in protocol and ceremony, is far from passive pageantry. It's a political counterweight, a monarch's presence acting as a quiet but firm rebuttal to foreign ambitions. The symbolism began right at the airport. The handshakes, the eyes meeting, the cameras flashing, yet behind it all, was a narrative of unity, a declaration of autonomy. He's not just the King of England. Charles has called himself, more than once now, the King of Canada. And he wears it, not just in his words but in the medals on his chest, the flag pins on his lapel. It's a strategic statement, echoing through the stately halls of Ottawa, across the Atlantic, and straight into the media chambers of Washington, D.C. Tomorrow, the King will open Canada's Parliament. The first British monarch to do so in nearly 7 decades. The last was Queen Elizabeth, a giant of the modern royal era. Now, her son steps into that solemn role, under dramatically different circumstances. The world has changed. The throne remains. Back in London, Prime Minister Keir Starmer walks a diplomatic tightrope. He courts Trump for trade ties, navigates Ukraine tensions, and juggles domestic priorities. But when Trump praised the royal family, Charles listened, diplomatically, carefully, and with the weight of history on his shoulders. In private circles, Charles extended an unprecedented invitation. A second state visit for Trump. A gesture more political than princely. It irritated many, especially Canadians who viewed it as too accommodating. Carney, once the head of the Bank of England and now Canada's political torchbearer, didn't hide his displeasure. The tension between ceremony and sovereignty plays out not only in words but in symbolism. On the ground in Ottawa, Charles and Camilla strolled through a local park. They met artisans and vendors. It was casual, but not empty. Every handshake, every nod, every smile, it was the embodiment of loyalty, partnership, and shared heritage. Later, in a light-hearted moment, Charles dropped the puck to begin a street hockey match. Cheers echoed, cameras clicked. It was a classic Canadian scene, made extraordinary by the presence of a king. A tree was planted afterward, quiet, ceremonial, symbolic. A living thing to mark a living connection between the monarchy and Canada. The speech from the throne is looming. Only twice before has a British monarch spoken in the Canadian Senate. When Charles does so, it will mark just the third such occurrence in history. But this is no ordinary moment. The words will carry weight. They will echo in Parliament Hill. They will reach beyond Canada's borders. This historic honor matches the weight of our times, the Prime Minister's office said. And rightly so. It's a time where tradition meets turbulence. Where monarchies are questioned and republics rise. But in Canada, for now, the crown still has meaning. The visit is a reminder. Of lineage, of leadership, of loyalty. Charles isn't just checking a diplomatic box. He's making a statement, that cancer hasn't broken his resolve. That Canada isn't a colony in waiting for another power. That history matters. In his speeches, he will likely mention friendship. He'll talk of heritage, of unity, of shared values. But beyond those words lies something more significant: continuity. The United Kingdom and Canada share more than language or law. They share roots, often deep and tangled, but enduring nonetheless. Even as generations shift and republic sentiments rise, the monarchy adapts. This trip proves it. It's not easy balancing old world tradition with modern politics. Charles does so with quiet precision. No grand gestures, no loud proclamations, just presence, just principle. And while critics debate the relevance of royalty, Charles steps off that plane. Not just as a figurehead, but as a symbol of something older than democracy itself, the enduring weight of duty. For Canada, that means something. And so the streets of Ottawa buzz not with protest, but pride. A pride that might be complicated, but real. For 2 days, the maple leaf and the royal standard fly side by side. And in those 2 days, history is made, softly, symbolically, and, as always, with a touch of ceremony.